podcast called Dub Jellison Podcast.
First ever type 1 diabetic in UFC history.
Doing fine, Dub. Nice to be with you.
Get out! He's like, yeah.
My tunnel vision and my periphery, I'm like off field.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when your team.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of Dub Jellison Podcast. They have a very special guest joining me for the second time, Ryne Smith. Ryne, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you having me on again.
Yes, sir. Literally 10 minutes after we did our first podcast, you texted me and said, "You didn't tell me you were type 1." And I was like, "What the hell is he talking about?" And I was like, "Oh no, I had to have you back on. We had to talk about it."
Yeah, man, absolutely. I couldn't believe I missed it as well. We got to stick together. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I asked you this yesterday, or the day before. You never really talked about it openly. So I didn't really know. And I did a Google search and Twitter search and all that stuff, and literally nothing came up for it. So you've been kind of not closed loop, because you said that you don't hide it or anything, but
no,
it is.
No, not really. It was one of those things where, honestly, I was 27, right? So I was working at Miami, and I had all these symptoms, and I was like, what is going on? I was thirsty all the time. So when you're thirsty, what do? You chug water. Mm-hmm. And then what happens if you chug water? Well, you get to go to the bathroom all the time. So I was up, going to the restroom, peeing 6 or 7 times a night for 2 weeks. And finally, my wife was like, "Dude, I'm getting tired of you getting up. I'm tired of you complaining to me. Just go to the health center at Miami and get it figured out." So I go in there, and the nurse practitioner's like, "This sounds like something you need to go to the real doctor too." So all right. So I made an appointment. I was new to town, knew nobody. So found a doctor, went in right away. They pricked my finger. And at the time, I have no idea what to expect. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know anything about, diabetes or anything. So she pricks my finger and she's like, yeah, you should probably go to the ER. Your blood sugar's at 555. And I was like, is that good? I don't know. You know what I mean? What does that mean? So that's kind of how that went down. Went to the ER. They got me taken care of, and then that was that. It was a weird couple weeks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now looking back on it, you were probably 500 for 2 weeks, and that just gives us anxiety. just the thought of that.
Man, yeah. So when they were like, "Yeah, you're supposed to be below 120," and I was like, "Okay," so 555. Trying to figure out what I ate that day. I think I probably had a breakfast sandwich for breakfast, and I was eating a big sandwich for lunch, and then I had a 32-ounce Coke slushy on top of that. And thinking back, I'm like, well, yeah, looking back, it makes sense that you were that high, but it was a long time. And one thing that people don't realize too is your vision goes with it. Mm-hmm. I know you know that. So I'd be sitting at practice at Miami, working the clock, and I'd be like, man, I can't see the freaking scoreboard. I can't see the clock. What is going on? So now that I know and I'm educated on it, it all makes sense.
I was talking about this with Eva Rubin, who plays for Illinois. She's type 1 diabetic too. And she kind of had the similar story as you, drinking a lot, peeing a lot for 2 weeks. And I think, I haven't really looked it up, but I think, from my understanding, I would assume that it's something with your pancreas where it's still producing some insulin, and then it hits that wall, and then it just keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower.
So what they told me, Dub, was they thought I got a viral infection that attacked my pancreas. Because being 27, I was somewhat healthy, somewhat in shape, not the best shape, but to be diagnosed with type 1 at that age was kind of rare, I guess. So that's what they're telling me. They said a virus attacked the pancreas, and then it shut down producing insulin, and that was that.
I don't know if you know, I was diagnosed at 3. So yeah. I think it would be harder on people, especially you being diagnosed at 27. You live those 27 years and quote unquote normal, and now you're having to be anxious about all these different things. You don't know what the hell's going on. And so how hard was it for you to kind of go through that transition?
Yeah, it was real hard at the time. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was and now looking back on it, it was a silly thought. My wife was 6 months pregnant with our our first daughter, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, am I going to die? Like, what is this disease? Like, I have no idea. But at the time, you're like, what is this? So that was hard. And then when I came down after being that high for so long, when my blood sugar finally came down, we got it figured out. Like, I crashed. Like, my muscles were like cramping up. I had headaches for like a couple days. And so that was hard. But the mental part of it, like, man, like, my wife's pregnant. I got this like lifelong disease now. I don't know what to expect. Is my daughter going to have it? Like, are we, you know, is it this like hereditary? All this stuff goes through your mind. But, you know, I think luckily for us in 2021, I think the technology is advancing pretty rapidly. And even since I got diagnosed, like the stuff that I'm using now compared to like pricking my finger 5-6 times a day is completely different, which is making it a little easier.
And you have a CGM. We both have one, but I think mine's Dexcom, and I forget what the name of yours was, but I know it's
mine's a Freestyle Libre. I got a Band-Aid over it so it doesn't fall off in practice and stuff. But you know, mine's pretty cool. So I was actually using a separate like scanner, and then they upgraded the version so it goes right to my cell phone. It wakes you up in the middle of the night if you're too high or too low. So it's much easier to kind of maneuver with going just to your cell phone, not having to carry a separate thing to it. So that's kind of nice.
And I just got a new pump, and that also goes to my phone too, and it tells me like how much insulin I have left in the pump. And I mean, it's crazy how we've come. I mean, since I was diagnosed, granted it's been a long time ago, but I mean, they didn't have insulin pumps. They hadn't even probably thought of these CGM things. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the crazy part, like, and you know how what the feeling is, and I certainly know now, it's like when you go low for the first time and you get really, really low, like I didn't know what to do. Like I was like, I ate chicken wings and I like corrected with some insulin and it was too much. I didn't even realize it. I was sitting on my couch and I'm like, man, like I'm sweating. It's not even like I'm profusely sweating. Like I'm starting to like, my vision's going. I'm starting to feel all weird. And my wife's like freaking out. She's like, oh my God, shoving ice cream in my mouth, like not knowing what to do. So I checked my blood and it was at like 36 and I'm like, whoa, like, yeah. So it's like the first time that happened was also very eye awakening, because when you go high, it's not that big a deal at the time. You know, you got some time. But when you go low, it's very immediate that you got to get it fixed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the first time. I don't even remember getting diagnosed really. I remember sitting in the hospital bed, watching like cartoons and just chilling. They were taking care of my parents are going to classes and stuff. But I mean, yeah, being low, some people try, like, my mom's going to hate me for saying this, but if she hasn't eaten all day, she's like, oh, I know what you feel like when you're low. I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. She's like, well, yeah, kind of. And I was like, no. Not. Because like, well, for me, I get really emotional. I don't know why. And then like you, I start sweating. And I'm just like, everybody, get the hell away from me. Chill out.
Yes.
Come talk.
There's no question. I get like super mean and chippy. And like, you know, one time, actually, you know, early on, I had the EMS come out to the house because I woke up and I was like, I had my shirt, because you black out. It's like being drunk almost. So I had like my shirt here and I was drinking a water through my shirt when I like came to, because I got too low too quick, and like I had like 4 or 5 EMSs. I was in the basement in the crawl space, had gone down there, like the wife was trying to shove brown sugar in my mouth, all this stuff. Because I was uneducated and I was so new to me, right? So, you know, I tried to correct for a meal that I ate, didn't eat fast enough or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty scary, but I agree with you. I feel like everyone starts to freak out, but now I'm kind of educated on it. So I'm like, hey, just, you know, give me a Coke, give me a Sprite, give me orange juice, whatever. I'll be good in 5 minutes. Literally, I'll be fine in 5 minutes. Just give me a second. Yeah,
just everybody chill out. Don't do nothing to piss me off.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy that, I mean, you have to go through all that. I mean, it was really easy for me just because my parents did everything for me when I was super young, obviously. And then like I progressively did more. But yeah, like, I'm like, how did your wife handle it? Because obviously it's new to her too, and she's trying to look after you, and she's pregnant in the middle of, like, I'm sure it had to be a crazy situation for the both of you.
Yeah, it was wild there for a while, and she's really good about it. Like she's a lot like me, where if it's high and like my alarm goes off and it's high, she's like, oh, you're good, you'll figure it out. But boy, when that alarm goes off for being low, like she'll go to panic mode. Just like we talked about, like she'll panic mode. You need this, you need to get up. Like she's shaking me in the middle of the night a couple times. Like, I always keep a Coke in my nightstand just in case or whatever. And she'll be popping that open, shoving it down my throat. So she's super anxious about when it goes low, when the blood sugar goes low, which is annoying to me at the time, but really good, in the grand scheme of things.
What do you usually use when you're low? Is it Coke and juice and stuff like that?
Yeah, usually like OJ or a Coke or it's usually like I always have like a Coca-Cola can in my book bag if we're traveling or if we're at the airport and we get through security, I'll go buy one and just throw it in my book bag for the trip. That's usually it.
It's weird to see all these, everybody kind of does it a little different. I've always done fruit snacks.
Yeah.
I don't know
why.
why.
I use those. Yeah. Because they taste good. They're good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I've always used that and I've never really tried like juice or anything like that.
I just felt like Coke is so high in sugar, it'll hit you quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And orange juice the same way. So
yeah, there's no really wrong way to go about it, but just preference, I guess.
For sure.
I mean, what did you have to do and going back to that kind of transition period after? I mean, how much did your life change on the day-to-day in terms of your diet and things like that?
Honestly, I got real meticulous with it because when you're on finger pricks, you're super high anxiety because you don't know what it's going to look like when you prick your finger and put it in a little sensor. So, my endocrinologist told me to just log everything. So I had a Google Doc and I was logging every meal, every insulin injection, and every workout. And honestly, I really should do that in everyday life because I lost 25 pounds and was in the best shape of my life. I was 185 pounds, running 6-7 miles a day, all this stuff. So I thought logging all this stuff and being meticulous with it wore on me a little bit, but it helped. It helped me figure everything out. Man, if you eat pizza, this is how many you need to have. If you're, just eating a chicken breast and a salad, you probably don't need anything, all this stuff. So I think I probably still have the Google Doc somewhere, but it was I was on it and it helped and it helped me. So that was one good thing about figuring yourself out as opposed to your situation where you were so young and people doing it for you. And I'm assuming that, it got into your brain eventually, but that was the best thing that I did.
Yeah. All that's writing down and being meticulous, like you said, it does wear on you a lot.
Man, yeah.
Just a pain.
I'm not gonna lie, but the part of it, the mental part of it too, kind of where it wore on me a little bit. I'm man, sometimes you start thinking why me? Why, what did I do to have to freaking worry about this? You know what I mean? And that's part of it. Sometimes I gotta stop myself and dude, it ain't cancer. It ain't, it's not leukemia. It's something you can manage. And those people that really should be, kind of concerned and, have their heightened awareness about their health. It's really not you. It's just something you have to manage. I got to stop myself every now and then and just, hey man, you're could be all right.
I think a lot of that, I don't know if you've been able to connect with anyone in the diabetes community, but for me, when I was younger, I didn't know anyone until I was 5th grade, I think. One of my classmates was also diabetic, but I didn't know any. So it is lonely. You feel like nobody knows what you're going through. And gosh, yeah, there's millions of people.
Right. I just, most times I'm just dude, I want to eat this pizza. I want to go get a ice cream cone. I just want to go to sleep. I don't have to worry about anything. And really, that's it's really minor when you think of the grand scheme of what could be going on with your body. But it is a part of the mental part of it is something to be aware of for sure for me. And sometimes I just tell my wife, I'm just in my feelings today. It's just I just want to do and I do what I want to do. I don't have to worry about anything. But yeah, it's certainly something to think about.
And I'm not quite sure how old your daughters are, but have you really? Do they understand your condition and what you have to do?
No, not yet. They'll see me inject an insulin pen every now and then and be like, "That's daddy's medicine. That's daddy's medicine." One's 4, one's 2. When I had the little scanner, it was about this big, and I scan in the back of my arm, and they'll grab it and they'll take it and do it to their arm. Don't wish it upon yourself. But no, in terms of the details of it, they don't really understand or anything. I just make sure I keep the insulin completely away from anything they can ever get to, because that could be dangerous for sure.
Yeah, that would be bad. That's always something I've kind of thought about, like when I have kids, like how am I going to go about telling them, because it's so foreign to people. They just don't have any clue about it. And like
Right.
there's some people, like you tell them you're diabetic, or they see your CGM and they're like, oh, what's that? And you explain it to them and they're like, oh, so you can't have candy? Dude, chill out.
Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I got diabetes or whatever, and they're like, you're not fat.
Yeah,
Like that's just a complete misconception of the disease or whatever. But you know, it's good time to educate. You know, it's a good time to educate. The craziest part to me though, and the wildest thing is when we'll have games, and like the game will be super high intense, and my adrenaline will be going. And when your adrenaline goes, apparently when your adrenaline is that high, it shuts down the insulin to your blood. I don't know if this is non-scientific, so all you listeners out there don't, take what I'm saying as science. But like I'll come in and I'll have like eat no carbs throughout the day, no sugar throughout the day, have a salad for pregame meal, and I'll come back after the game and I'll be skyrocketed high because my adrenaline has been pumping for so long. And that's something I got to be careful with too, because as your adrenaline stops, the insulin will pop in, so you can't really correct over it. So I've had times where I didn't even think about it, and I just corrected for nothing, basically being that high on adrenaline, and then crash later. So that was something to get used to as well, for sure.
That's not something I'd really thought about, but I honestly, I don't play sports anymore, so it's not something I have to worry about.
Well, the first time that it happened, I was playing like in an open gym, and it got intense or whatever, and we were going back and forth, and I came back after after we had got done playing and pricked my finger and checked it, and it was like 350. I was like, there's no way. Like, I haven't had anything to eat all day. I had coffee in the morning, that's it, there's no way. But then I did some research on it, and yeah, apparently that's what they're telling me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of going back to that T1D community, have you been able to connect with anyone?
Honestly, that's something that I probably should do, and I haven't done that. And whether I'm looking for help from somebody else or I can help somebody else, that's something I for sure need to tap into.
Well, I mean, for sure. I know there's Purdue fans that are young that have diabetes, and to know that someone who's a legend of Purdue, played for Paint, won Big Ten championships, is diabetic. I mean, that could make someone's life. That could give them something to look up to. Because like for me, I didn't really have anyone. I know it wasn't in like the social media age, so there wasn't like a whole lot of like you can look up who's diabetic or whatever. But like the first one I really remember like gravitating towards was Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was a center on Baylor women's team a couple years back that had the same patch as me, and that was kind of the first time I was like, oh, that's what's up. Like, her blood sugar is super high right now. Her out there balling and having the adrenaline going, like just trying to think through it. So that's one thing that I when I see now, I look for, and like if I see people out in public and they got the same patch as me, or I see something, I'll say something to them. And but in terms of reaching out specifically and trying to build a bond with somebody, that definitely something I need to do for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's super valuable. I mean, even just like because no one else really knows what we're going through. I mean, like I said, my mom thinks she does, but I mean, it's good to just bounce ideas. I mean, just like when you need to talk when you're having a bad day, just bounce ideas off each other or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And you get together, have some ice cream and have some insulin and call it a day. I think, I had a funny tweet prepared. I didn't pull the trigger on it. It was like World Diabetes Awareness Day. And I said, I wanted to put out there, what are my fellow type 1s doing today, doing shots, and had all my pens like in my hand to celebrate. But yeah, there's no doubt.
I think that's coming up, isn't it? It's in November.
Usually in November. Yeah.
You have to pull the trigger on that one.
Maybe I got to. I have to tag you now. You're gonna be in on it.
I know we got like around 10 minutes left. I mean, I kind of want to transition from diabetes. You came back to Purdue a couple weeks ago now for the home opener. What was that like to be back in the stadium? I mean, packed. It was crazy in there.
I'm not going to try to be corny or anything, but like I came down the steps to the bleachers, making my way down to the beer garden where I spent most of my evening. but I came down the stairs and I was like, you know, we're back, man. This is amazing. Everyone's here. I felt like I got like emotional with it. It was great to see. And I didn't even plan on coming back. It was one of those things where I knew my boy Drew Anthrop was in town, one of my college roommates. A couple of my friends still live there, Bobby Riddell, Alex Borst, a guy who was our manager, and a great West Lafayette legend was obviously in town. And then out of nowhere in our group chat, DJ Bird was like, dude, screw it, I'm coming. I'm driving in for the game. It's Labor Day. This is the last one I can make it. So everyone starts coming at me like, dude, you got to come. I'm like, I can't come. The flights are like $1,000, all this stuff. So I came home. I was all moping around about not being able to get there. And my wife was like, well, hang on, we got Southwest points. So it was Thursday night. She booked me a flight for the following afternoon. And I rolled in and surprised the guys. And I had to let them know, don't call me soft or I will show up and ruin your weekend.
I mean, how nice is it to see them? Because I'm assuming you guys don't get to, I know, didn't you guys go, you went down somewhere tropical and were chilling. It was like Rob, Jay, and I think a few other people were there, but it's super great, man. It's when we all get together, it's like 2010 back again. We just clown around, acting stupid, acting silly, but that was an awesome trip. And you know, when we all get together, like I said, it's like our playing days again. We're just joking around, you know, harassing each other. But it'll be good because I think the Purdue alumni game is coming up next summer. So that'll be good. It'll be fun to get everybody back, you know, at the same time in one location. For all my fellow people who are 21 and over, we'll make our way over to the chocolate shop and have a good old time. Purdue's, they're cooking up right now. We got a big game against Notre Dame on Saturday. Yeah,
it'll be good. It'll be a real good test. You know, I'm a huge Jeff Brom guy. Love him. I thought last year was a kick in the balls for him with the COVID and the Rondell Moore trying to get him going and deciding whether he was playing or not. I thought that was a tough situation for him and put a damper on his overall record. But I mean, I love him, love the way he coaches, his approach. So I'm a huge fan, huge Jackson Anthrop fan. Want him to score a touchdown every game. So it'll be huge rooting for him. And it'll be fun when they kick off 2 p.m. East or Central Time, my time. I'll be dialed in and ready to go.
For sure. That whole Rondell thing was odd. I don't know if I should screw it. I'll say it. I heard that they had a little team meeting with him, all the guys, and they kind of kicked him in the butt to get him to play last year.
Yeah, I don't know any of the details of it. I really don't. All I know is that he is probably making more than I'll ever think about making for the Arizona Cardinals now, and that's probably more important than what he could have done during a COVID football year in college football. So I get it. I get both ways. I just think it was a tough scenario for the team, obviously, but he's doing his thing, which is the most important thing. So, but no, huge Jeff Brom fan. Let's play football clip before just about every one of our games. Get myself ready to go.
Yeah, that my favorite clip is the one of him throwing down the chair in the locker room. I love that. Yeah. I don't know why.
That's awesome. It makes me want to run through a brick wall.
100%. I mean, is it different to go back and see a game like now compared to when you were in school going to games?
Yeah, there's fans in the stands. And that's a little different. It was a little tough go when I was in college for a little bit there. But you know, it's like I said, I walked down and into the stadium in the Raw State, and it was packed, and it was just a beautiful sight. And I think that's on the trajectory of where Coach Brom's got him going.
I mean, Purdue's always been kind of labeled as a basketball school. From my generation going forward, we've never been good at football, honestly. Like our best years, like 7 and 6 maybe, since I've become a fan. I mean, I'm assuming that was the same when you were in school too. Yeah, that's pretty close to it with some of those teams, but people don't realize how hard it is. Like it's hard to get good. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about the top tier of college football. That is a straight up Fortune 500 company. You know, they got it rolling at Alabama, all those schools. Clemson it is so hard to get to that level, and everyone expects it. When you're a fan, like you're like, hey, we want to win every game, and that's just not the reality of how it works. So, if our guys are out there and they're playing as hard as they can go and they're competing in every game, I'm good. Obviously, you want them to win, and you celebrate when they win. And the Oregon State and UConn wins were great. And
And don't let them beat Notre Dame. Hey, you'll never hear the end of it for me. For people out there, you'll never hear the end of it for me.
Hey, a lot of people are picking us to get that upset.
Well, it's a beautiful thing for me. Toledo goes in there and almost beats them last week, and that's my hometown. So my hometown team, goes in there, sets the blueprint, and then my alma mater goes in there and drives it home. I mean, that's perfect. It's a perfect setup for me.
Oh God, I mean, that'll be the biggest win since obviously the Ohio State win back in 20. That was the craziest game I've ever been to.
That was one. That was probably. Yeah, that was probably top 5 nights in West Lafayette I've ever been a part of. Probably they're up there with like when Wiz Khalifa had his concert there my junior year. The Ohio State Purdue football game was up there. Yeah, we won when we won the Big Ten tournament. That night was up there, but it's one I think about all the time, and I always keep it on when it's on the replays on Big Ten Network. It's one that you can't turn the channel to. Obviously with Tyler Trent too, that made it that much more special.
We weren't losing that night. There's no way in hell with him there. I mean, it was a perfect storm. And then, yeah, like afterwards, we were throwing down.
Oh yeah.
My fraternity was, I was in Pike, or I still am, but we were like right by the arch. So like Mackey and Ross A's down there, we're like in between or just past Cary, and everyone was throwing down. We were like, people were chucking beers everywhere, and the cops were just sitting there watching us.
Oh, it's beautiful. It was great. It was definitely one for the ages.
Mm-hmm. And then last thing I want to touch on, because we didn't talk about it last time, but obviously Men of Mackey this past year is your year 2. How fun was it to be able to coach new guys like Rob, Lou, and Kelsey?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think year 2 was a lot more fun, just because of those guys. Year 1 was also amazing, but with Rob, Kelsey, Lewis, Evan Boudreau, all those guys, Big Isaac, and especially the guys I played with that you mentioned. It was great. It was just great to be back competing with them. It was like you blink and you feel like you're back in college again, getting ready to take on somebody. But it was great. And for me, like I've said this a lot, like when I go into those things. As the head coach or labeled as the head coach, I'm going in to learn as much as I can from those guys more than anything, because I never played professionally, so I'm taking whatever I can from those guys and bringing it back here and implementing what I can into our program is probably the biggest thing for me. But great experience to be back on the court and competing with those guys, and hopefully they'll all come back for next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Was it kind of like a weird dynamic? Coach guys that you played with in college, like if I told you when you were a senior in college that you're gonna coach Rob, Lou Jack, and Kelsey in a tournament, you probably wouldn't have been like, ain't no way no.
Definitely would have said that. But like I said, just going into it, I just have the demeanor of, I try to make sure I have the demeanor of, let's do this together. Like, let's figure out what we need to do together. What are y'all seeing out there? What are you feeling out there? How are they calling it? All this stuff. And if Isaac doesn't, get into a fight with the biggest human being, on the planet as well, and have me get in between it, it went pretty smooth. So it was good. No, it was a great experience. Hoping we get a regional in West Lafayette next year. That would be great. I gotta start tweeting at the TBT guys to get that done.
For sure. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. Because
it was. I think the Purdue fans always show out, and they did an incredible job in Columbus as well, especially against the Tennessee game, which was on a Friday night. It was great.
I was at that game. I had really good seats actually. I was right behind Dockage. Please tell me that you saw that dude that was making a fool of himself.
Oh yeah, with the flag.
Yeah, I was right behind him.
Yeah, I wanted to invite him to our after party. He would look like a great time.
That dude was killing. He was going off.
Yeah, he was. I was trying to help him out. He had his flag backwards. He was holding up like a backwards P. I was trying to help him out. He wasn't really paying too much attention to anything else but the flag, though.
and then the cops came up and he waved the flag in the cop's face, and that's what got him booted.
Can't do that and stay in. Can't do that and stay in the game, man. Yeah, you had a good run.
Hey, I'm gonna have to wrap this up so I can go to class, but thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you opening up about type 1 diabetes, and I'm glad that we're in this community together, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. And anybody that's listening out there, man, don't hesitate to reach out, slide me a DM, whatever. We can chat about it for sure.
Yes, sir. Stay safe.
All right, man.